What's up, guys? Welcome back to Drew's Garage. We are here with the man himself, Ross Milson, who owns CSBK, and as far as my interaction with him, has been a great addition to the series. Thanks for spending some time with us.
Yeah, no problem.
Appreciate it. Firstly, how has this has been your first full season as the owner?
Yeah.
Technically?
Yeah.
How was it?
Yeah, it's been good. I mean, it's a lot to take on for sure. And year one, I guess I assumed ownership of the company right before the tire test down in Jennings. But it was a process and the die was already cast that first year. And year two was a big one. We went west again for the first time in quite a while.
Yeah.
And six rounds was quite a bit, and we actually got the Superbike show in RDS, so back on French language for the first time in a good long time as well. So,
okay, perfect.
So really happy with the progress.
Awesome. And I know you said you're back out west, which is great. This coming season, we're out there twice,
yep.
right? And kind of an interesting setup this year. 2 back-to-back rounds, obviously, to amalgamate the travel and everything else. But no Grand Bend this year.
Yep.
Can you talk about what happened with Grand Bend, why it's not on the schedule this year, and why Shannonville's not on a second race as it was before?
And it's nothing. There's nothing negative to say about either one of those venues. It's just the reality of 4 Ontario rounds is a few too many.
Yeah.
We need to be a national series. We are a national series.
Yeah.
Through COVID, obviously, we were kind of stuck.
Is what it is.
Yeah, we were stuck in Ontario, and this is where we, historically spent a lot of time. And I think it's important that the series goes west. There's some new venues out there, new racetracks, and those are hard to come by.
Yes.
And several regional clubs, and it just makes sense for us to make that trip. And in a perfect world, as we get going here, and as some new tracks come online, I want to make sure we're racing at the best tracks we possibly can, and make sure that we are traveling.
Right.
Sure. We are a national series.
Yeah, like you said, it's a national series. Obviously, with COVID, different story. You have to make do, and we're pretty much. I think CSBK was essentially the only racing that was going on during COVID. Pretty much, right?
Yep.
So the fact that even it was happening at all was pretty impressive.
No, there were a lot of people, and like Pro 6 and Colin worked really, really hard to keep things going through COVID, and it wasn't easy. And that was where I kind of stepped in to get more involved behind the scenes with this series, because it was a difficult time.
Yeah.
And to weather that storm, to come through it, and obviously with Bridgestone coming on board and a few of the other additions, we've been able to get back up on our feet a little bit. There's a long way to go. I'm fortunate enough to have raced in the series at a time way back when there was real factory teams and a lot more money in the paddock, and it's not an easy road, especially in Canada, but we're working step by step to try to improve.
Perfect. And you talked about the new venues that there are at West, the new venues we're going to go to, obviously Rad Torque again this year. We're going to go Rocky Mountain and actually race there as opposed to just do the test. Are there any plans to do Area 27? Is it even a viable option, or is it not a viable option just based off track ownership, things like that?
We've had some meetings, and I'm never going to rule anything out. I would love to race everywhere.
Yes.
And that's on the list for sure. That round, location-wise, there's not a ton around there, and at the height of tourism season, it'd be quite expensive to stay.
Right.
And there's challenges, and we have some of the similar challenges at Rocky Mountain right now, where for whether it's local government, we're not permitted to stay at the track overnight, that sort of thing. So there's hurdles everywhere, and in a perfect world, or in maybe at some point, we're able to get all the regional series out there to work together and have a big race at Area 27. But I've tried to get out to every venue that I could. I was out at Mission late in the fall there, or Thanksgiving weekend, I think, to check out that place as well. And it's important that we make the effort and try to build the relationships.
Right. Now, as far as, like you said, obviously Bridgestone's come on board. I rode them for my first full season on Bridgestones this year, which was fantastic. I found that the help that we've been able to get as racers from the tire supplier has actually been like a really big difference. Can you talk a little bit about what your experience has been so far dealing with Bridgestone, how you feel it's improved since we've moved from Dunlops now to Bridgestone, and how it's affected the series from your standpoint as the owner, being able to work with them versus other tire manufacturers in the past?
I mean, we were 9 years spec with Pirelli, and then 9 years spec with Dunlop, and now we're kind of at the beginning of our journey with Bridgestone. You know, all these companies are making great tires. The Bridgestone product is a great product as well. Definitely, for me as a race director or a race organizer, the fact that the tires are as durable as they are has made my life a lot simpler. Like I know I can run on a mixed condition racetrack, whether it's on a rain tire on a drying track or a slick in a cool damp racetrack. These tires are durable, and we're not having any. Nothing's coming apart, nothing's delaminating. Like it allows me to be a bit more strict with the schedule and keep the show going. And the worst thing I think for a fan or a sponsor or a racer is to go to a venue and you're sitting there the whole day and nothing's on track and nothing's happening. I mean, It's Canada, our summers are short, the season is limited, track time's limited. If we have a racetrack that's suitable, we should be out there riding it. And you know, and obviously you see they're setting up their engineers and their technical support, and they really are behind the series in a big way. And you know, they have the title sponsorship of the series, so they are supporting us at a very high level. And when COVID kind of hit, I mean, previous to COVID, Mopar was our title sponsor. When that went away, obviously it's very difficult to run a national series without the support to do it. You know, from the television production to just the travel and the staff and moving them all over the place is a very expensive proposition. And the deals with the tracks, some of them are full rentals, some are you know, there's all kinds of different deals with the racetracks, but nothing's for free. So we need the help, and Tebow's a big part of it as well with BS Battery and EBC and coming on board and Muck Off as well, and you know, adding brands and adding support is only helping us for sure.
Yeah, and I found that when I first met you at the start of this season, I had never met you before, you had never met me. I'd been racing regionally in the past, and the first thing I ever said to you, I remember I came up and said, I have a set of brand new Bridgestone, from last season. I didn't use them because I was injured, and can I get your permission to run them? And you had never met me, you know, you didn't owe me anything or like that. And I remember, even though you were busy and you were doing a million things, you stopped, you shook my hand, and you said, you know what, yeah, as long as Dave okays it with Bridgestone, then it's fine. And I found that even though I had 4 years of racing experience previously, I found it a pretty welcoming paddock to come into as far as the management goes. And most of the racers relatively as well, but when you're the new kid on the block, they also don't owe you anything. So until you're around for a season or two, they might not give you too much attention as far as that goes. But I found that as a new racer to this series, that you were very welcoming and very approachable, and like I really enjoyed that, and I really enjoyed the series. I really enjoyed being able to spend that year traveling around, going different places, enjoying the process, and I plan to keep doing it for seasons to come. I got some tough questions for you now too. So obviously, CSBK National Series, it's been around for, 40 years now? I think this is the 40th, or last year was the 40th?
1980, so it's 40, what is that? What year is it now?
It's 2025. So
44, 43, 44 years, something like that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, exactly. We're racers, we don't do the math very well. If it's in PSI, we'll figure it out. Great series, and I really enjoyed it, and the way that we control the costs and everything, it's a horsepower controlled series as opposed to necessarily following the strict guidelines of, say, World Superbike or the new second generation Super Sport rules, things like that. I know this is a tough question coming from myself to the guy that owns the company. When it comes to the horsepower testing, there is a lot of talk in the paddock of how it's being bypassed. Right? And that's the history of racing. Since racing started, people have been finding ways to go faster within the spirit of the rules.
They find creative ways to circumvent the rules, or and that, I mean, it's always been a thing. And the dyno is there. If we're talking about pro superbike, if I'm honest, the dyno is not really there for that. The dyno is there for the lightweight class. The dyno is there so I can look a father in the eyes and tell him, and that we're doing everything we can possibly do to keep the cost low and to, try to have some semblance of parity across the board. Racing is, bike racing has always been a bit unique in my opinion because the rider has a greater influence to the result than say a car. But the reality is that some bikes are, whether we're talking stock or available parts via the manufacturer, some bikes are better than others, and that's always been the case.
Yes.
There's always a hot set, there's always a benchmark machine, and the biggest challenge we face right now is everything is changing all the time. Like you look at the sport bike class as a prime example. Sometimes I long for the old days of 4-cylinder 600s and 4-cylinder 1000s, and now we're talking about 900cc triples, 765 triples, 1000cc twins, and it's this ever-evolving landscape. And what the next gen rules that the FIM have brought into other national championships is where we're going to have to go. There is an intention to work towards a unified rule package for all national championships. But one is not, we're not Spain, we're not Italy. We don't have the depth of paddock, we don't have the money in the paddock, we don't have the numbers.
Yes.
And if you look at some of the rule books and even the years of homologation, if we adopted that rule set full stop today, any bike older than 2016 wouldn't be eligible to be on the grid.
That's right.
So we will work towards the next gen stuff in sport bike, and I think at some point we'll have maybe a split in the rule book where you're going to have to declare your next gen with the Metronics ECU and software, or the old rule book and so you'll have to be one or the other.
Right.
And then as time goes on, obviously those older, more obsolete machines that are from 2006, 7, 8, 9, 10 will go away and we'll move on. It's an interesting time for sure, and it doesn't matter what series we're talking about. All of them are struggling from the lightweight class up to superbike class with parity and trying to ensure even in fair competition. But the reality is, if someone's going to build a better motorcycle, it's always going to be that way. It's always going to be a moving target. It's always going to be harder to deal with. And the dyno is there, and the dyno is also there. And guys, forget about this. If you have an oil leak, and it's only at RPM when the thing's building crankcase pressure, or if you have an issue with a flat spot and the bike's not running proper, the dyno is there just as much as a tool to help our riders tune and ensure the bikes are, tippy top, than it is to balance or to enforce the rules. And no dyno can duplicate, there's a ZX10 sitting here beside us. No dyno is going to be able to duplicate, that thing at speed, at most port with the airbox pressure that it builds at that kind of speed. There's, 100 different ways to have maps and switches and everything else. So we do the best we can. We do cycle through all the maps we can. We do at times ask, especially the pro superbike teams, to bring over their computer. We open up and we learn what we can. But there's always going to be people that are trying to circumvent the rules, and there'll always be people that are absolutely certain that everyone else is cheating except for them. Of course, yes. So, and that's never going to change. No. And but we are doing what we can, and we're doing the best that we can to try to ensure parity moving forward. And we are going to lean on the FIM and some of the large organizations in the future because we have to.
Right. So do you feel that there are plans moving forward that, like you said, as there become more and more balls in the air as far as electronics goes, everything else, where you can hit a button on the handlebar and change a map that goes from 20 horsepower more to 20 horsepower less? Is there, in a dyno controlled series, is there a way to tighten those regulations or not? Like, is as far as as you as the owner for CSBK, do you look at it and say it's a functional way we're doing it right now, or do you think that it is a system that is being worked around more than is being worked with?
When it comes to the horsepower ratings and the horsepower limits and that sort of thing, as we move forward, and especially if we adopt that next gen rule set, the map that's provided settles all that. There's no need for dyno at that point. Yes. And that's where we will let it go to. Right. That being said, there's value in the dyno being there, especially for the smaller displacement classes. If we have like the ZX4R Cup, if entries pick up in that, like that's a spec class, spec, no modifications, and obviously the dyno is a very easy way to validate those machines.
Yeah, of course.
So there's value to that machine being there, and it's important for a bevy of reasons, but is that the BLM doll? No. And when it comes to superbikes, you know, if you want 300 horsepower, you couldn't use it anyway.
No, you couldn't get to the
tracks
ground,
you go to. So there's, you know, and that's part of it too. So on the superbike side of things, again, it's a difficult time. We have certain manufacturers that are giving lots of attention and involving, and we have other ones that aren't doing much with their superbikes. So the market is going to dictate where things go, and you know, it's not going to help the series grow if we're not going to permit the manufacturers to race the machines they're selling.
Of course. Yeah,
so
that's right.
It's always going to be a moving target, and it's always been a challenge since, well, forever.
Okay. 3 final questions for you. As the owner, what is the best part of your job? What's the worst part of your job? And what's the funniest thing that's ever happened to you at the racetrack?
The best part is on it, and it's obviously it's why we all race, right? It's while watching Ben Young and Alex Dumas set identical lap times at shooting.
Right.
It's watching a son win his first national and watching that son and father team reaction after that win. It's watching someone go out there on a racetrack in wet conditions and do something that they wouldn't be expecting to do in the dry, and realizing it's an opportunity and going out there and seizing the opportunity. Or it's walking through the paddock at Shannonville. You know, they got a lot of things on the go, and it's a lightweight race, and and there's a big pass coming into Allen's, and I hear the crowd react.
Yeah.
And you feel that energy, and like those are the things that make it worthwhile. The negative stuff, it wasn't that long ago that I was behind the bars.
That's right.
And you're there for one thing. A racer's there for their race, their result, their deal, and that's it.
That's
Full
it.
stop. That's all.
Sport, yeah.
Yeah, and you have to be selfish.
Absolutely.
And if you're not selfish, and if you're not there for your best interest and your best interest only, you're not going to beat some of these guys. That's not going to happen.
Right.
So it's I knew that was part of the deal, but to be on the receiving end of some negativity or some hard questions, is the worst part of it. But basically, I just approach it as I'm trying to be bringing more transparency, more communication, and working towards what common sense should rule the day.
Yes.
And I think we've made a lot of good moves, and I will make mistakes. It will happen, but so far we've been doing pretty well. And what was the third thing?
The funniest thing that's ever happened at the racetrack, either when you were a racer or as the series owner. Could have happened yesterday, or it could have happened 20 years ago.
This could be an all-day thing, but one of the funniest was probably Moto ST at Road America, and it would have been 2007 or 8, I can't remember. And it was an endurance race, and I was a long way into a stint, and I fell off the machine, picked it back up. I fell off in Canada Corner of all places.
Of course.
And picked it back up, and a marshal came out to help push me out of the gravel, and I feel awful because I filled that guy full of gravel as I gunned it out of the gravel trap. And that series we had radios, and I was plugged back in, and I had radioed to the crew saying that I was down and I didn't have a right side foot peg, and I radioed that I was down, I needed a rear set, and I was coming up to the last corner, and there's a left kind of crest, and then a right hander up the front straight. And I actually keyed the radio up and said, I'm in, because pit lane was right around the corner. And I was still accelerating, and I reached up and got the brakes, and there was no brake lever, and I absolutely crashed my brains out, and stood up in the gravel and staggered back to the bike, and they have closed circuit television there, so race control saw this person who didn't know where the bike was, which way was up, walking back to the machine, and they actually, and rightly so, stopped me from getting back on the racetrack.
Of course, yeah, as they should.
We got the bike in a truck back in the pit lane, and the crew did a great job of thrashing it back together. My teammate went out to continue the race, because it's a 3-hour endurance race, and the call from the marshals was the bike was on fire as he left pit lane. We saw the gravel and dust come out of it, so he did continue, but I was in a golf cart to go back to the trailer, and the golf cart had been tie strapped to the canopy, and I didn't know, and as I left, I ripped everything down, so I was injured from a foot peg injury, and I was already messed up, and then that happened, and then it was just
So
one
you
of
crash
the
in
worst.
Canada corner as a Canadian.
Yeah.
You crash because you have no brake lever and you miss the pit entrance.
Yep.
And then you get on a golf cart and manage to somehow crash that as well.
Crash the pits.
Crash the pits as well.
But the coolest thing about that was I was back at the trail and I dropped my suit outside because there was so much gravel in it. And Gary Nixon was riding by on his pit bike because he was involved with Pair 9s. It was Jimmy Felice and Jay Springsteen on that team. And the back of my leg was all purple and it was still full of stitches from an injury a few weeks previous. And he stopped and looked at me and said, "What happened to your leg?" And then I just kind of glanced. I'm like, "Oh, it's nothing," and I walked away. And he gave me like a little nod of approval. And to get that nod from someone like him was pretty cool. So that was one of the just craziest stories. And there's about a million more. And I can relate to all the riders that are out there when stuff goes wrong. I've been there, I get it, and I've probably done something similar.
Yeah, and when it goes wrong, it really goes wrong. Ross, thank you for your time.
Hey,
Appreciate it.
Thank you.